So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans. Oh, what's going on back here? Why aren't we there? There we go. That's a bit more like it. There's our names on the screen. Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome back again. It's just wall to wall Aston Villa. I was just saying to Nima there before we came on. I was saying that like Villa seem to be the only gig in town at the moment. Like every second tweet is about Aston Villa at the minute, and yeah, I'm leaning into it anyway. Put it that way, because there's been a lot of years where nobody gave us the time of day. But obviously, we've been very active in the Italian market. We had Nima on last week, and we wanted Nima to chat to us about Weston McKennie, which was a bone of contention for a lot of people. And then, poof, Weston McKennie was gone, and Enzo Barrenechea came into the mix, and yeah, I wanted to get your view on that, along with a couple of other things that have come up in the last few days. But firstly, Nima, how are you doing, and how's life with you since we last spoke?
I'm good. How are you? It's good to be with you again, Neil. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
It's incredibly warm here in Ireland. It's incredibly warm and sweaty here in Ireland. So I'm not used to this, but I am slightly solar powered, but I'm just not used to this today. But it's also heating up in the transfer market, Nima, as well. See that segue? Seemed very natural for me anyway. I'm sure people are people are like, oh my God, that's awful. But talk to us, I suppose. Let's start, I suppose, with Enzo Barrenechea, Nima, because we spent a lot of time talking about Weston McKennie, maybe his potential fits, his not potential, the things that he wouldn't do well within the Premier League. But this to me, this addition to me seems like number one was something that Juventus didn't want to do. And Aston Villa maybe got him added into the deal after Weston McKennie dug his heels in. And then secondly, it seems like a bit of a pivot to a different type of player. But talk to me about him. What's your views on him?
This is a player who joined Juventus pretty late on. He was 19 years old when he joined Juventus, and they sent him to their next gen, which is their like B team, or Juventus under 23, the reserve teams, if you will. He came from Sion in Switzerland. He started his football in Argentina, in Newell's Old Boys. But yeah, he's done really well there, despite the fact that he injured his ACL. But he really came back. He did it in May 21, if I remember correctly, and he did it. But he returned well after that, because of course last season at Frosinone, he was really, really good. He was one of those, him and Sule were one of the standout players of that side. It was quite a bit of a cooperation between Frosinone and Juve last season. But he's already made his debut for Juve, did it in 2022. I think it was in the Champions League, if I remember, towards the end there. I think it was Champions League. I can't remember, but I have a vague memory that that's when he made his Juve debut. Anyway, he's a defensive midfielder. He's been likened by his youth coach as some sort of a mix between Paul Pogba and Zonzi kind of thing. But you know me, Neil, I hate these comparisons. It just pisses me off. Like you can draw similarity, like similes, and you can say he's a similar kind of like, he has traits that remind you of or whatever. But this new Pogba, new Messi, new this, new that, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
But he is a defensive midfielder. He's a deep lying kind of a midfielder. He's very, very talented. He had a very good season at Frosinone, and he's 100 million times the footballer that Weston McKennie ever was, will be, and so you should count your lucky stars that you're getting this guy instead of Weston McKennie.
And it's a really interesting one, because like a lot of the talk previously about this deal was, do Villa want Weston McKennie? And then it was like, well, we'll see how much Villa get back in the monetary sense afterwards. What do they value Douglas Luiz at? And now that we know the terms of the deal are 22 million. The Villa will get 28 million. The two guys coming to us will be 22 million. And all in all, Douglas Luiz will cost on the books for Juve 50 million. And I think that's a win-win for everybody. Now, I think it's a fair win-win for everybody. We have to remember Douglas Luiz is worth a lot more to us, but he's only got 1 year in his contract. And also, Juve are giving up I would imagine 2 players that they would have used next year, no problem. They would have used Barrenechea and Iling Junior, who we'll get onto in a moment.
I don't think they would have used Iling Junior, but I do think that Barrenechea was someone they wanted to hang on to, because Iling Junior, they've used him as a wing back where he's been really good. As last time I would say we spoke about him, and Motta's going to play a back four. So, they could have used him as a winger, but I just didn't. I think this time was over at Juve, Iling Junior. But he's a very good player as well, and I think it's a shrewd investment by Villa to get Iling Junior. I really think he's English as well. So if he, we also know that, of course, because of homegrown rules and other, regulations in place, English players that do well in the Premier League, their value skyrockets. So this is actually a pretty shrewd move by Aston Villa. Barrenechea, look, I think he like all young players, he's not the finished product. He can develop, but I really, really like the player, and I think that you have a manager who will absolutely revel at working with him.
I always go back to, if Unai Emery can get the best out of Francis Coquelin, Etienne Capoue, and Daniel Parejo in their later years and go on and win a European title with them, if he wants Barrenechea, then who are we to give out about that prospect? But I'm excited about him myself. I've done a lot of watching of him recently, and I like his stature. I like the fact that you can see, number one, physically, he's got, at 23, he still has an opportunity to kind of almost grow into himself, but he's a big guy at the moment. He togs out a lot taller than 6'1". He looks a bit more of an imposing presence in the midfield. Tangible wise, he's good over short distances and long distances while not being an absolute speedster, and he can ping a ball, he can rake a ball from that kind of deep line playmaker area. So those kind of things that you can work with are definitely there. So I'm super excited about him. And
I would be too. I would be too if I were you guys. I think he provides. It's a young player, but it's a young player with experience, and it's a young player who I expect has everything that he has all the tools that he could really be a good player. I mean, I've expected him to be part of the Argentina setup within the next 3-4 years. I really rate him. I've always rated him. I think he's a very intelligent player. Maybe not as elegant and technical as Enzo is, who's rotting away at that horrible club in London in blue, whose names I don't even want to mention. He's not as good as him yet. I wouldn't say talent wise, but I think that he could be someone who if they play a double pivot, he could play next to him, or he's someone who could play backup to him in a few years. It is a very good player. I really like him. I really, really like this player.
I could see him in the short term come in to replace Guido Rodriguez in the Argentinian squad. That's who his career arc. Look, no one's career arc is going to be the same. And once again, I'm staying away from saying he's like this guy. But at 23, Guido Rodriguez kind of made his big break, started getting into the Argentinian squad, started getting noticed. Yes, he hasn't got that huge move. Potentially, he could get to Barcelona this season. Who knows? But I see the same type of career arc for this guy, except he's going to do it in the Premier League. And potentially, as I say, I think he's probably got another string or two in his bow to add to it from a playmaking point of view from that area, as opposed to just being a guts and glory Rodriguez type.
No. He's a playmaker. He builds play. He's a tactically sound player.
Yeah. Talk to us a small bit about Iling Junior. Once again, I think we spoke a bit about him last time, but a couple of people have asked there in the comments. Do you see him primarily as that left back or that left wing back? Or
I do.
My mind moves to that game against Benfica where he came on and kind of changed the whole game for Juve as a left winger. And I have this sneaking suspicion that he's going to be played as more of a wide midfielder, kind of a la that Jacob Ramsey type role with Unai Emery. But I just really have no idea where to fit him into the squad at the minute.
Well, I mean, if you're going to play, I think he can play as a winger in a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2, if that's what you're going. But you can also play him as a wing back in a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3 or something like that. I think he gives you options, and I think he's a wide player. He's got pace. He's attacking. His primarily strengths. His strengths primarily lay in the attacking phase. So no, I think just consider him to be a wide player who gives Emery options if he wants to play with a back three or a back four, basically. No, I wouldn't call him a fullback. I'd say more of a wing back or a winger. I don't see him as a fullback. I really don't.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Because for me, he's the biggest wild card with regards to this because he has talent. You know, he's got so many games for England under 21s under his belt. Another guy who got an ankle injury at the wrong time, if I'm not mistaken, Allegri was falling in love with him big style. Got an ankle injury, and then Allegri brought him in as that left wing back. Then afterwards, when he came back from it. So once again, I'd be interested to see what Unai Emery does with him. We may not offload our two left backs that we have. I personally don't think we need to, but maybe he sees him more as a change of pace. Who knows what Emery could do with him, considering what he's done with Morgan Rogers. From that point of view, you know, we just probably don't see what next year's team isn't going to line up in the same rigid form that Unai Emery's did this year. I don't think so. He's a real wild card for me, and I'm looking forward to it. But
look, it's exciting players. You're getting exciting young players. Barrenechea and Iling Junior are young, exciting players with their best ahead of them.
We were also linked today with, and now you're talking about young and exciting, we were linked today with Italian under 21, Michael Kayode of Fiorentina. What a breakout season he's had this year. I first saw him playing for Italy under 21s, and then I saw him. I'm 99% certain. Actually, I'm 100% certain he was playing for Italy against Ireland, and Italy had one of the best under 21 teams I think I've ever seen play. At that time, they just everybody was a full grown man, and he was. I'm 100% certain he was playing, but I might be wrong. Put it that way. And I just saw that he was bombing up and down that right back role. Talk to me a small bit about him, because he really got me excited, albeit that it's only come from one source at the moment and there's nothing massively concrete in it yet. Villa are on the lookout for a right back, and for the fees mooted, I think it could be a bit of a steal if it was for less than 20 million.
Yeah, I think he's going to cost you a bit of money, because this is someone who is very, very highly rated in Italian football. He was the match winner in the under-19 European Championships, which Italy won last summer. He scored the winner against Portugal. He got when what's his name, Dodo, got injured, he took that full back role and made it his own, and he hasn't looked back since. He was one of the players of the Serie A, breakout players of the Serie A last season. And no, he's a very, very good player. He started his career at Juventus, actually, at the age of 10, and so to kind of go full circle with the Juventus youth team theme that we've got going on here. He left in 2018, went to Gozzano for 2 years, and then he came to Fiorentina. So no, this is he's a wise player. He's a very mature guy. I mean, when he went to Gozzano in Serie D, he described it as going to a fourth tier of Italy as one step back but two steps forwards.
He was 15.
Yeah,
which that blows my mind. He went to play first team football. He backed himself. 15.
Yeah, in the fourth tier, and he did really well. I mean, if I remember correctly, they gained promotion to the Serie C with Gozzano that season. And that's when Fiorentina saw him, and with them he won the youth, the Coppa Italia for Primavera teams, which is the youth team sides, and then they won the Super Cup as well. No, this guy's destined for greatness. Let's not, he's going to be, finally Italy's defensive woes have been resolved. Whether it's Destiny Udogi as left back or left wing back, or Michael Kayode as a full back or a wing back, Calafiori, Bastoni, Bongiorno with Donnarumma in goal. Finally, Italy have their defensive woes have been resolved. Unless, of course, Italy are unlucky again, and just like with Scalvini and Zaniolo and Chiesa, another ACL. But I feel that Italy's ACL quota of talented players has been fully filled. So we're praying that he gets no ACL injuries. But yeah, no, he's going to be an Italy player in no time. There's no doubt about it. Let me put it very, very clearly. If he continues, his mental strength, his maturity, the football he plays, I think he's going to be a starting player for Italy in a very, very short period of time. If you get him, congratulations, take care of him. I think Unai Emery is the right guy to do so. I hope Unai Emery then stays for as long as Kayode is there. I don't want to see another player be abused the way that David Moyes abused Scamacca, a wasted year entirely. But I really rate Unai Emery. I think he's one of the most underrated managers in all of Europe. I think tactically he's incredibly sound. I think he's good at developing players. I think this notion that he's a defensive coach is ridiculous. I think what he is a pragmatic guy. He has a clear identity. He's very good at developing players. He knows what he wants, but he's also pragmatic, and he also doesn't want to lose games, which I think is kind of important when you're in a competitive sport. He's not an ideologue in that sense. He wants to deliver results, and I think he would be absolutely brilliant for Kayode if he were to go, because I think Fiorentina, look, Vincenzo Italiano, who left Fiorentina, is very good with the coach is very good with young players, but he has huge tactical deficiencies. And I'm not too entirely sold on Palladino either. So I think I'd rather see Kayode coached by Emery than Palladino, actually, because I think Emery is a better coach today than Palladino is, who I think is also a very young, talented coach, and he'll probably have a great career. But from a selfish Italy point of view, national team point of view, if Kayode went to Aston Villa, it's great for the Italy national team because he'll play under Emery, who I think is a fantastic coach. I really do.
Do you think, like, he's only got 32 games really outside of Italian Cup games and stuff like that? So within the Conference League and in Serie A, he's 32 games under his belt, Kayode. Do you think he would need a settling in period in the Premier League? I personally, I don't know is what I'm going to say, because I haven't seen enough of him, but like his physical attributes are just amazing. So I'd be interested.
Well, that's the thing. He's tactically sound. He's actually, yes, of course, he can improve every aspect of his game because he's young. But I've always been struck by how mature he is for his age on the pitch, his decision making, and of course his physical attributes. I mean, he's very quick. He's fantastic stamina. So no, I don't see him. Of course, the Premier League is the Premier League. It's going to take time for any player to adapt. So I think we should be patient with him if he were to go to Aston Villa. But I don't think if he hits, I don't think the pace and the intensity will be any problems for him. No, that I don't know. I have no. In fact, I think he'll fit right. I see a similar pathway for him at Villa as I've seen for, Destiny Udogie at Tottenham.
Brilliant. Like the sound
of that.
I'm
just finally happy that Italy have, I just want these guys to be fit, play, be in a good environment, nurturing environment that grows them as people and as footballers. I think Udogie with Ange is exactly there. And I think Kayode would be there with Unai Emery as well, who I think, again, is a very, very tactically solid manager. And I think he's a good man developer. I'm really happy that you guys are going after youth. That a Champions League club from the Premier League is going after youth, talented players, as opposed to, just buying the next hot thing. Like, basically, like I said, like that silly blue club from London who just buy the flavor of the month for a ridiculous amount of money, and then they turn out to flop, and then that's it.
There's a whole other podcast in that itself. And actually, do you know what? That's a kind of a good segue into the next piece I wanted to talk to you about. Aston Villa have, look, as I said, they're the only gig in town recently, and there's a lot being thrown at at Aston Villa for being, I suppose, thinking outside the box from a transfer market point of view this year. They've had to. Look, we don't sit here and shy away from the PSR pieces that Aston Villa have, but Aston Villa recently done a transfer deal with Everton where they sold Everton a player for 9 million and they bought a player from Everton for 9 million. Yeah. And it seems to have the world aghast at this illegal wrongdoing.
There's nothing illegal about it.
I can't find anything in the rules.
No, there's nothing illegal about it. Basically, so what we're talking about is capital gains.
Yes, and that I want to just preface it slightly. The reason I brought this up is you guys in the title might see the word Plusvalenza. Now,
Yeah.
Nima's going to say it way better than I can. So
Plusvalenza,
a lot of people have thrown it at Villa that this is what Juve and Napoli were investigated for.
No. Okay, let's calm down. Plusvalenza is the Italian word for capital gains. There's nothing illegal about capital gains. That's called, that's what you have to do. That's business. That's how every, capital gains is part of finance, and it's the most normal thing ever. What Juve got convicted of, and their entire board of directors had to resign, and Fabio Paratici was, well, if I'm not mistaken, the criminal trial hasn't even begun yet against him or Andrea Agnelli, was that they created fictitious capital gains deliberately, trying. There was in what you say in criminal law, the mens rea, the mental element to defraud the system. And then, of course, you have Fabio Paratici, who sat on the phone and boasted, admitting to creating fictitious. This master criminal mind sat on the phone, admitting to committing crimes, and the police were listening. So that's what happened there. There's some of those phone calls are, it's as if he's a villain from an Austin Powers movie. That's how cartoonish these conversations are. He's literally sitting there admitting to every crime under the sun, like except for the Kennedy assassination. I mean, it's bizarre listening to it. He's saying, I've taught everyone how to do this. I've been the sporting director for 4 clubs. Completely illegal, not allowed. I mean, he's just sitting there saying all sorts of nonsense on these phone calls, admitting to it. And so that's what he and them. That's the scandal. What Napoli were investigated for, because this is very murky legal waters. For them, it was more like, well, these players that you sold to is part of the Osimhen deal that went the other way. Well, they are now, you valued them at this much, but was that a fictitious capital gains? Well, prove it. The onus, the burden of proof lay with those who claim that you have committed a crime. Yeah, exactly. So, or in this case, it's a civil crime because it's a sporting crime. So it's a civil crime. It's not a criminal crime. It's not a crime. If you know what I mean. It's not
blue collar.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's like you have civil law and you have criminal law. This is correct, a civil law matter. So, but the burden of proof is still on the person making the claim that you're being accused of something. So, but regardless, the burden of proof is lower because of course in criminal law it's beyond reasonable doubt, whilst in civil law it's on the balance of probabilities. But regardless, so that's what they're doing, and this is what Villa have done here. And what Everton are doing is they're creating a capital gains on players. Now, what is a capital gains? It's the increase in the value of an asset when it's sold. So what does that mean? Let's just break it down very, 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 very simple. If you buy player A, right, for £20 million and his wages are gross £8 million, right, and he signs a 5-year contract. So 8 million times 5 gross, that's 40. 40 plus 20, that's 60. So what you do is you put it down on the balance sheet, amortize the value of that, the wages plus the transfer, over the duration of the contract, in order so that it doesn't make your balance sheet look really dodgy one year and then work better the other year. So you want to balance that out. Lots of clubs decide to, for example, amortize the value of the transfer fee a little bit more in the beginning of the contract, and then to less towards the end of the contract, which is usually while clubs like to sell players after 2-3 years, because most of their transfer fees have already been amortized on previous balance sheets, right? So what they've done here, Villa and Everton, without going too deep into it, is something that you can't really prove unless you have phone wiretaps, them sitting and saying, let's fool the Premier League. I'll sell you this player who's not worth 9 million, and I'll buy that player from you who's not worth 9 million, and then let's all be happy. Now, I really hope that your club is not run like that, because if it were, I would, then we're back to Austin Powers and villains on Austin Powers. I don't think that's what's happened. I think people have understood here that, look, we need to make a capital gains of this much. You need to make that much. We'll take this guy. You take this guy. We'll pay this much and then that's it. You don't need to, interests converge. You don't, as the great late George Carlin, the comedian, said, you don't need a formal conspiracy when interests converge. Here, interests converge. Is it morally wrong? Well, you could argue it is. But did they break a law or a rule? I'm not so sure. Just very, very broadly.
And and look, I could talk to you about this for the next 2.5 hours, because I suppose, like, my biggest thing here is, if you sign somebody who's 21 years of age or 18 years of age or 19 years of age under the pretense of he can get better over the next 5 years, and I fully intend, if he does, to sell him to assign him to another contract after year 2. How can you prove that I'm not betting on the potential? How can you prove that I haven't spotted something?
It depends on if
better.
It depends on if you've done a paratici, as in on the phone and boasted to everyone that you've been doing fictitious. That's what I'm saying. That's the part I said. I hope your club isn't run like that, and I doubt it is.
And where do you stand? And sorry for cutting you off, but I think there's am I right in saying that the Napoli part was partially thrown out because on appeal they said transfer market valuations are not actual valuations based on their own definition. Talk to us about that.
They had no evidence there, and they got thrown out, and then it's been reinvestigated again, and then it's kind of been going back and forth. But with Juve, it was different, because they were, they're also a publicly traded company, and that could be, tampering with the stock market, which is a really serious offense, which is kind of why this became a criminal matter as well for the Italian authorities. With the Napoli thing, nothing has happened. It's just being investigated. We don't know what's going to happen. It's already been kind of thrown out, so we don't know. But with the Juve thing, that was really, really serious, because again, the amount of evidence they had, and also Juventus being a publicly traded company, and also because by doing so, they didn't have to sell players, which other clubs had to do after the pandemic. So we're talking financial doping and so on and so forth. It was a complete mess. But and the last word hasn't been said on that yet. But we'll see. But with Napoli, I'm not too worried, because the selling club that sold Osimhen, what in God's name would they have to stand to gain from this? Do you know what I mean? Like, they're the ones who got less cash for Osimhen. So for them, like, why would they accept this? Like, you have to prove, in order for there to be a conspiracy, you have to show that, okay, Napoli and the selling French club otherwise Napoli selling crap players to a Ligue 1 club to bring down the cash level of signing Osimhen. Well, it's not criminal to be, if you're doing business and the other person is an idiot, that's not a crime. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, but I'm sorry, but it's like when Jack went to the market and sold the family cow for 3 beans. Okay, you can't really say that was done by Jack, but you can't say there was a conspiracy between Jack and the person who sold him. Do you know what I mean? Like, there needs to be something here for me to look at from a legal perspective. And with the Napoli case, as of today, I've not seen anything that warrants any kind of wrongdoing or malfede, as they say in Italy.
Or even, as they say in Rome, caveat emptor. I think is probably to bring it fully Italian, really. Yeah. Here, look, there's me showing off my absolute rudimentary knowledge of Latin.
No, but look, this is normal. Inter, for example, and Atalanta did this quite a bit back in the day when Alessandro Bastoni. That's why one of the reasons I get so annoyed when Inter didn't really pay 30 million to sign Alessandro Bastoni, because they paid 35. The overall value of his transfer to Inter was 35 million, but Inter sent players for a value of 18-20 million the other way. So in essence, they only really paid 15 million euros for Bastoni, and he turned out to be one of the most brilliant things they could have ever, brilliant signings they ever did. So this is again something that happens over and over and over and over again. So it's not illegal or not allowed per se, but what is not allowed is for you to create fictitious ones. Like with Juve, they actually went out and they said it themselves on the phone calls. Everybody knew about it, from the CEO to the president to everyone. We're creating fictitious capital gains here.
And there was 42 transfers that were there's 62 transfers overall, if I'm not mistaken. Parma, Chievo, some other teams, but 42 of the investigated ones were Juventus. So it's not like they were just going, right, let's have a little week of a little, we're going to do this to scratch our back or anything. Juventus were doing it over a course of years.
Yeah, they were. And the reason for that is because they signed Cristiano Ronaldo and couldn't afford him. And Paratici brought in lots of players and gave them ridiculous contracts, which they couldn't afford. And then they couldn't get rid of these players with high wages. They had to throw money at them to leave. And then the pandemic came and they had no money coming in, and it was panic mode. And when people are in panic, they do stupid stuff. That's when the pressure comes, and that's when they start doing crazy shit, like admitting to breaking the law 100 million times on the phone and boasting about it. Like Paratici did. Again, those phone calls are very, 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 very entertaining and amusing. And again, it's like, everyone thinks of these white collar criminals as like James Bond villains, when in fact they are more like Austin Powers villains.
Well, look, let's hope, as I said, that we have a Dr. Evil and not or not a Dr. Evil.
No, you have Dr. No,
not a Dr. Evil.
Yeah. No, I think you'll be fine. I don't see how they can prove anything like that. I think it's just one of those things where they both looked at each other and said a nod, a wink. And also, you have to look at the players themselves. I mean, there's nothing wrong with swapping players.
Nothing whatsoever.
I mean, every single club in every single league does this. The intent part is what, in my opinion, is more important.
I personally would have investigated us more when we swapped Milan Barros with Jean Carew back in the day, when we were getting Carew from Lyon. Like, that was daylight robbery, because I think Barros didn't go on to put one foot past another after that. And we got Jean Carew, who went on to, become a cult hero for us for a while. So, like, player exchanges are just so out of the blue, I think, number one. And that issue from, like, with regards to when Villa were doing the deal for Douglas Luiz, everybody was going, oh my God, what are they up to here? They're swapping players. That's been done numerous times before. And then when this other piece came in, so I think because we are the only gig in town, and because people, number one, don't know, nobody outside of Villa,
they don't know what it is.
They don't know the players.
Not only the players, they don't understand the legal terminology, they don't understand the financial terminology, and they just throw shit around saying, oh, you're doing Plusvalenza. It's like, yeah, every company in the world does capital gains. If they didn't, like, they would, like, what are you talking about? There's nothing illegal about capital gains. It's what is illegal is creating fictitious capital gains. Like, again, like, it's just, I'm sorry, but usually, like, on social media, especially football fans, people just throw things around. They don't know what they mean. And it is what
I will say it again for everybody out there. If anybody who's watching this, if somebody starts talking to you and saying that Omari Kelly was worth 1 million on transfer market, please just go and type in transfer market definition of transfer value and send them the link and screenshot the two pieces and say to them, by their own definition, they don't say it's a projection of transfer fee. They update it twice a year. Twice a year is all they updated. And plus, Omari Kellyman was in our matchday squad 22 times, which means we valued him as a player, and we got fourth place, and got to the semi-final of the Conference League. And that guy was in our squad, our matchday squads, because we thought he was a damn good player and we didn't want to lose him. But you can't not sell someone for 20 million. Like, an 18-year-old kid for 20 million, you kind of have to sell him, and hope that he doesn't become that world beater that you thought he would become at your
Inter
team.
did the same thing when they were like 2 summers ago. I think it was 2 summers ago. They sold Cesare Casadei to Chelsea for 20 million euros. This is a player that didn't play a minute of first team football, and Inter were in dire needs of funds cleaning up after the Conte project imploded and COVID. And they were like, they snapped. They couldn't accept that offer quick enough, because yes, Cesare Casadei could turn out to be a world beater, but in the situation you're in, do you sell Lautaro Martinez, who is already one of your most important players now, or do you sell Cesare Casadei, who could be one day an important? It's a no-brainer. It's about risk minimization. Like, so it's people just chat shit. Pardon my French, but let them.
let them is right. Look, as I say, let them, and as I say, we won't be the first, last, or second last.
No, everyone is going to do this. Everyone is going to do this now. It's not just Villa. All of the Premier League are going to see this.
Yeah.
So it's not, but you guys were in a different position because of how your books looked. So you had to do this. So no, I look. I honestly think that it's not nice to lose Douglas Luiz. I get that, but I'm not sad. If I were a Villa fan, I'd be like, well, I'm getting two really young players. One of whom is English. Who means that means that his value is going to skyrocket if he just has a decent career, because of homegrown rules, and the players, English players are really sought after. You can really make a big buck on him, and if he turns out to be a great player, fantastic. Same with Barrenechea. You got a potential Argentina national team player. I mean, do you know where I'm going with this? Like these are good signings, and also you're buying young players. You're buying players with future, with potential. Kayode, if you got him, congratulations. You get, from where I'm standing, probably a starting right back for the Italian national team in a few years. Do you know what I mean? So you're buying good players, and you're buying players with talent, players with future, and it's good business. I got to say, I think what you're doing is good business. I don't know how much you bought Douglas Luiz for, but you're selling him for you're selling him for what? A value of 60? How much is it? 50 million pounds?
Yeah, 50 million pounds.
How much did you buy him for? 20, 30?
Less. 11 to 15, somewhere around that.
That is a huge capital gains.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing, this is how you have to do it, unless you're a certain sky blue club in Manchester who can do whatever they want. No one can say anything. But everyone else, if you're going to follow the the laws and the rules in place, the regulations in place, then this is what you have to do. It's called player trading. Inter do it, Milan do it. Everyone has to do it. So there's nothing wrong here. And I think you're doing it very, very well. It's about playing that game well. And I think Villa are doing it very, very well. And the fact that you're in the Champions League as well makes you even more attractive, because you've got more revenue coming in. And most players want to play in the Champions League. So, no, I think with Villa are in a good place. I'm actually really excited about Villa's season, to be honest. I don't have any team in the Premier League I support, but I think Villa's project is really interesting. I'm really looking forward to see what you guys can do.
Well, I'm biased, and I think the same. So I'm really looking forward to being how we do as well. As you guys may have heard there, I just had someone gate crash in the door asking me to put them to bed. So I need to put my little daughter to bed. But Nima, that was fantastic. We're going to stay talking for the next hour, 2 hours on this, because I have a lot to say on it. I've been more vocal than most, I think, on Twitter this weekend about it. It's just because I don't like people just saying things and not being checked when there's a quick factual. Like, it took me 8 seconds to Google the transfer market stuff, and it really boiled my brain that people couldn't do that. So literally just find
8 seconds, literally 8 seconds. Like this is what pisses me off. I'm sorry, but like stuff like that, like this isn't difficult to understand. All you need to do is the internet connection, opposable thumbs, and be able to read. Like that's all you need to do.
Exactly. Nima, thanks a million for your time again. I wish Italy the best, all the best tonight as well. In that, I had originally asked Nima to come on at maybe about 9:30, and he said, Italy are playing tonight. I went, I'm so sorry about that. Yeah. We're not having Ireland in the competition. Has my match radar completely thrown off. So I do wish you guys all the best tonight. And as I say, thanks so much everybody for watching. Guys, follow at ITA Foot Pod, or the Italian Football Podcast as well. There's some really great conversation on there between him and his guests and his hosts. We
did a profile deep dive on Michael Kayode if they want to know more about him in detail. I think it was like 8-9 from last season at some point. So just Google Italian Football Podcast and Michael Kayode, and you can listen to.
And the Plusvalenza as well. There's numerous. That's how I got to know about it. I listened to about 7 or 8. I was like, oh my God, there's a never-ending podcast list here as well, which is great because I got a lot of information on it. As news was breaking.
It was very intense. When that was going on.
So do go check the guys out there as well, and check them out on Twitter and on YouTube as well. But I do have to go, or else I'm going to get murdered by a 2.5-year-old child. But thanks so much, Nima, and thanks everybody for watching. If anything breaks between now and the end of the night, I will give you guys a shout. So we'll chat later. Thanks a million, Nima, and thanks everybody for watching. Pleasure. Stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.